Finally, our guest today has an intro. He hasn't had an intro on his own YouTube channel for a long time. I'm really excited. We have Patrick Leonard on the show today. Padsy, as he's known. He has a new course coming out with Run It Once training this week, I think. And why should you listen to him? He has been, over the past few years, one of poker's biggest MTT backers, one of online poker's biggest winners, over $10 million in cashes online, I think, $2.5 million of cashes live, including, and this is completely insane to me, a week in 2017 where he bricked the entire World Series, stayed for the post limbs after a zero cash series. The bricking part, I understand. That's easy. I can do that. But stayed for the post limbs and won 3 tournaments in a week for over $1 million in Vegas. Patrick, my first question to you is going to be the hardest question you have to answer all day. Who loves it more?
There's some people out there who love it more than me, for sure. I mean, I do really love it, but there's some guys you'll know, like Lena. There's a guy called Lena 900. He for sure loves it more than me.
He does love it a lot.
Yeah, there's some guys who literally have played 5-6 days a week, every week for like 10 years, 11 years. I saw a picture I posted today on Twitter. It was when I was an amateur, like 20 years old, and Phil Galfond, like ironically, was like my kind of hero. Phil Galfond, like that kind of crowd, because they were like 2 or 3 years older than me, and I felt like they really loved it. Like Dwan was on High Stakes Poker, he was on everywhere, like NBC Heads Up, Galfond, like there was like 4 or 5 of these guys, and I was like, wow, these guys really love it. So I was trying to kind of, I'm never going to emulate their success, but I was always trying to like play in similar games to what they played in, or I always found their success really.
What was amazing to me about that picture is that you look exactly the same 13 years later. What is your skincare routine?
No, I guess the main thing is that you can see how tanned I am there versus now. Like now I've been in front of my PC for literally 10 years. But there I was so brown. I used to be like a long distance runner. I used to be a footballer, like soccer player, whatever you guys would call it. I was outside all the time. I used to work in like promotions for clubs where you're like handing flyers out to people in the sun. And then now I'm just literally in front of, the only light I see is my Chrome browser right now. So that's the biggest difference, I guess.
Yeah, that's brutal. Speaking of footballing, or as we call it in America, soccer, played with you in the Vegas World Cup, which is awesome, but I am going through withdrawal so bad because we've had COVID in the US. It's been too bad to really play indoor soccer. So this is probably the longest I've gone in my life without playing. Have you been playing at all, or are you looking forward to the summer?
Yeah, so in London, we have this thing called footy addicts. It's essentially like, let's say I wake up tomorrow. Right now, it's actually closed for like the last month or so. But if let's say you wake up tomorrow and let's say you want to play for a team, but you don't want the commitment, like maybe you play poker, you play tournaments, you can't commit to going every Thursday night kind of thing. You can just basically wake up in the morning and be like, okay, today I want to play 5-a-side football or 6-a-side or 7-a-side. You can choose how many people, where I want to play, within what kind of radius, and they just find you a game and find you like-minded people together. So it works out amazing. I think I played every day for like 70 days in a row or something during like October, November, December kind of time, because it's just so easily so accessible and there's no kind of commitment. I've always found like in football teams, I've always I don't like to do something like half-assed. I have huge OCD with a lot of things, and I just have to, if I do something, I just have to do it all in. So I've never wanted to join a team and just turn up once every few weeks. I want to be like the captain of the team, organizing things, tactics, like I have to be all in kind of thing. But this Footy Addicts in London really give me kind of the freedom to play like when and where I wanted. I think for anywhere around the world, it'd be amazing. Not just necessarily football. You could have different kind of team sports. You could have tennis partners. You could have golf buddies, whatever it may be. I think the biggest restriction to sport, I think, is commitment and time. So if you can choose when and where you want to do it, I think it's a pretty good thing.
I'm amazed that you can still, after sitting in front of your computer playing MTTs for so many years, that you're still in good enough shape to play 70 days in a row. That's incredible.
Well, I wasn't until like day 15, I guess.
Okay. The first 14 were a real struggle.
Well, I made a bet actually. I made a big bet, probably one of the biggest bets I've made, like side bet, prop bet. It was a sports bet against a guy called Steve Watts. I'm not sure you guys know who he is, like a UK professional poker player. He used to be a professional soccer player. But we made a bet. We were going to do 6 sports against each other, and you got a point for each sport you played. Maybe 7 actually. And we had like 2 months to train, and we were both out of shape. So I think it was like football. It was penalty shootouts because it's fun. Tennis, badminton, golf. It was like six or 7 sports which we weren't very good at, and that was the main motivation. But then because of COVID, literally everything's closed, so the bet's been kind of postponed. Let's say.
How much do you have on it? Do you want to say or no?
Well, I have a lot more than he has on it because we bet with each other like 5, maybe 10K or something. But I got a lot of side action from people. Basically, he's an ex-professional football player, and we bet at even money. And I would say I'm a favorite at even money, but like Negreanu thought he was a favorite against Doug, so who knows? So yeah, basically, I thought I was a favorite, deluded, and I got a lot of odds from people, so like a lot of 3-1, 4-1, 2.5-1 kind of thing. So I bet quite a lot. I bet like I bet 6 figures, and he bet, like very small against me, like 5 or 10K. So I'm more motivated to play 70 days in a row than he is, probably, kind of thing. So yeah.
Smart.
Speaking of the challenge, Negreanu and Doug, you said you watched every single hand of that challenge.
Yeah.
Why? Why is my big question.
Well, we have this thing called we have this little thing. Well, I'm not sure. I won't give the name of it. We have a group together where we fund a lot of money together and bet a lot on things which we think we have an advantage of. So with the Doug bet, we had over like $1 million on Doug to win. So
Okay.
like we were pretty invested, and we were like sweating it together almost as well a little bit. So like like when it's a group sweat, it's a little bit more interesting, I guess. And
it's a way to be connected to people during a time when you're very disconnected, right? So it's nice to have a common interest.
Yeah, and it's also like I love poker. Obviously, I like the idea of heads up. I do on my YouTube channel. I play like a bunch of people heads up, and I enjoy the element of heads up. I also know I'm very bad at heads up, so it's like a game type I'm not very familiar with. So I'm kind of learning every time I'm watching too, which is like pretty good as well for me, I guess. Learn this, learn that. Maybe they're playing, and then there's a hand I don't understand, so I will keep watching the action with Jamie and Mike and the guys. Then I'll run a hand on the side so I can kind of learn from it too.
That's
like
cool.
Especially when Doug was like showing his cards, you could probably spend a lot of hours analyzing why he did what he did in different situations. I guess.
Especially because not only did he show his cards, but he also showed he was rolling his randomizer on the table. Yeah. So you can kind of see like if he rolled a pretty, it's harder if he rolls a number that's kind of in the middle, but if he rolls a pretty extreme number, he makes a decision that you think maybe he's not likely to make. You get a little bit more information about like how he's grouping those randomizations, which I thought was super, super interesting.
He does the same as what I do though. Like I have a randomizer as well, but if I roll it and if it's not the outcome
not
I
the
want,
thing you want, yeah.
And Doug did that a few times. Like when he had like an aggressive hand, like a hand which you want to check raise, and sometimes he rolled like maybe like a 4 or something, like really low, and he just like clicked it again, and I'm like, I'm sure I'm just saw him click that.
Nick Schulman said the same thing. He just said, he's like, once in a while, you just send the randomizer again. You're like, choose a different adventure, which I thought was really funny.
Hilarious.
I actually agree with you completely with the whole cards thing, because I had commentated maybe like 7 or 8 sessions without whole cards, and I'd never played heads up. So they're putting me with people who were heads up experts, and I'm trying to learn, and I'm like, I'm picking up things here and there. But then with the whole cards up and Schulman in the booth, I felt like I got a lesson in heads up. It was just so much more enjoyable with so much more information. And just Doug, I feel like if Doug was up 2 million at some point, he would have done that every session. He was ready to just fuck around and give people a show. But I think he had a little bit of a sweat there when Daniel pulled out like a 300 something K win. He's like, oh shit, I gotta really try hard here.
Well, I think the biggest sweat for Doug is also it wasn't just himself, but all his friends bet on him big too. Like, let's say I had this like sports bet, And like, I bet myself, I don't care if I obviously care if I lose, but I don't care too much. Like, it is what it is. I've done what I can do to put myself in the best situation. But if like all my friends bet huge on me too, and they were all watching me, then I'm obviously going to have more pressure when I'm taking the penalty kick or when I'm taking the serve or whatever it may be. So I definitely think a lot of pressure was added onto him from there. And also from Daniel's side too. Like, a lot of the people we bet against were, like some of the people you would remember from high stakes poker or from different kind of the older
So
generation.
you really wanted to get them.
Yeah, I know, like they were also my heroes, so it's fine. But I'm sure that Daniel had that pressure too, and I think a lot of the stuff where Daniel was saying about the luck and about really trying to emphasize how unlucky he was, I think a lot of that came from his friends having action. He really wanted them to know, like, look, I am being unlucky, because I know that myself, like, if I've lost a flip or let's say I lose 5 flips in a tournament, I don't write to like European or my friends saying, oh, I ran really bad today. But if they had like 50% of me and say 50K or 25K, whatever it may be, I'd probably show them the hands where I lost the flips, because I want them to know, look, I played well. Like, it was a good bet you made, kind of thing. Like, don't think I'm terrible or whatever, kind of thing. But when it's your own money completely and no one else has action on you, I don't think Negreanu would have been as animated as he was about the luck. That's where I kind of understood and
animated is a nice word for it, for sure.
Yeah.
The other thing that I found was really interesting about those bets is I saw a lot of bets flying around where people were spotting like a certain number of big blinds per 100 hands.
8 per 100. So 800K was the cutoff. Like,
yeah.
crazy.
So, but were they all at the same line or were they different? Because it would really introduce some interesting dynamics if like one of your friends had 100K at 6 big blinds per 100 and another one had like 900K at like 10 big blinds per 100. Where you have to those different
lines for different people. Like I think the action we got on was all between 3.8 to 1 at the start of the match, 3.8 to 1, and I think 5.2 to 1 or something. It was in that ballpark, but we thought it was like 99% chance Doug would win from like the calculations and stuff we did, for lots of reasons. Like, you have to remember the information we had on Negreanu at this point was that losing in like $100 tournaments on WSOP or GG or whatever it was, he was going crazy, like really crazy. Like, he was, trying to smash his laptop and he was swearing and threatening the people or whatever, kind of jokey, but you could see he was very angry. So we assumed this guy, like, we realized how big the swings would be, and we thought he just wouldn't be able to like control himself mentally from this. He'd break down like in some mental ways. And I think Negreanu's biggest success from the challenge is that he didn't really ever tilt. I don't think, maybe one hand here, one hand there, but it wasn't like he just like ever tilted off or like changed his game. He seemed to just play the same ranges, play the same kind of aggression, maybe there was some spots where he slightly deviated, but probably not to the extent that we believed he would have done at the start of the challenge, I think. So yeah, I mean, I think Negreanu, and also Heads Up is such an aggressive game. Like, I think Doug won, I think he said he won like 30 buy-ins and non-showdown winnings. So like, he won a lot of like uncontested pots, which is what we kind of expected too, which means luck isn't going to be accounted into that. And one of the biggest factors we had is that people who are betting on the game, they don't understand how big win rates can be in Heads Up. Like, in a Heads Up, if you play against a weak player in Heads Up, who are like a very weak player, you can easily have like 30 big blinds, if not more, win rate. So we thought, at least for the first half of the challenge, Doug had been preparing for months. We knew what he was doing. We knew his background and how he was preparing and stuff like that. We thought Doug, for the first half of the challenge, would likely have like 20 plus big blind 100 win rate. And then as the second half of the challenge came in, Negreanu would most likely get it back to like 10 to 15 big blind per 100. That's what our expectation was. And the standard deviation for Doug to for the second half of the game was always going to be lower if Doug won a lot in the first half of the game, because he had the opportunity to limp, he had the opportunity to do other things, So we expected the first half of the challenge to be very high win rate for Doug, and to have, for him to pretty much always win the first half of the challenge very convincingly, because his win rate would be so high. And then the second half of the challenge, we thought he could have it locked up if he wanted to, or he could decrease the variance a lot just by playing a lot more passive or changing his strategy if he wanted to. And so then when he started to limp, we were very happy. And then when he stopped limping, we weren't happy at all.
But part of that actually was like just talking to Doug each day. He was trying to make it so he never got to that threshold where he had to materially change his game. So the limping was like just to make sure some hands go by, so that like he's in the range where he can continue to make good value bets and thin value bets and not have to like really lock it up. So it was funny because everyone's like, oh, he's locking it up. I'm like, no, he's kind of like chilling right now to make sure
Yeah.
he doesn't have to lock it up if he's within like 200K or something at the end. So like his
Exactly.
goal was always to be able to like maximize EV in every spot and just find a way to like be able to not have to like slow down at the end.
Well, one of the main things is that which people don't understand is that if you have a strategy of raise only, or if you have a strategy of limp and raise, the strategy of limp and raise is actually a higher EV strategy than the raising strategy is. So what ends up happening is you have a higher win rate there anyway, and the standard deviation is lower. So what Doug did isn't crazy at all. Like imagine, first of all, it's better to do that strategy. And then second of all, you're playing against a player who basically says, look, I'm going to start gambling a lot. You know, like you'd be out of your mind to just keep like raising, saying, okay, well, here's some more free money. Here's some more free money,
Yeah.
you know? Sometimes in like high rollers, like you'll have a guy like Leon. I'm not sure, you know, Leon,
We are aware of Leon, yes.
I can't pronounce his second name, but he often will just go in blind every hand, right? And you don't just start like, if let's say Dan Smith opens, like I wouldn't start free betting a lot. I would play really tight, really passive, really slow, because Leon's going to go all in when I free bet, and he's going to just I'm going to be losing the money when I'm bluffing, or I may not raise for a big size. I may just play limp only because Leon's just going all in or folding, right? So I would then change my strategy, and Leon can't be like, oh, you need to keep raising, you know, like if he's going to change his strategy, I'm allowed to change my strategy.
He could. If he said, I'm going to go all blind every hand, but you guys aren't allowed to limp, you probably raise still.
Yeah, sure. We probably wouldn't start like going for large sizes and stuff, but yeah, we'd probably
you probably accommodate Leon. He can be in charge if he's going to do that.
Sure. Leon, yeah, Leon's an interesting one for sure. So yeah, maybe.
Leon is one of the people I think who loves it more.
Sometimes he really doesn't love it as well. Like he gets pretty angry about it too. So like if he's on a good day, Leon loves it. But on a bad day, he doesn't love it. That's for sure. But I haven't really seen him around so much. Like I think they signed some partnership with GG, like Kings. I see there's like a logo on tables, like Kings logo or something. And WSOP Europe was on GG, I guess. But I don't really see Leon around. Actually, kind of interestingly. He's kind of disappeared for the last few. I haven't. Just weird that we brought him up.
Probably nothing nefarious, I would hope. I don't know.
I just would have imagined you would have seen him on GG a lot playing in these high roller games and stuff, you know, because he's a partner of GG. But I don't know. I just haven't seen him around. Hope he's okay anyway, you know.
Yeah, maybe just a poker break. Before talking about your course launch, which we want to cover in detail, I wanted to bring up something that everyone in this group cares about a lot, but I want to talk about dogs because you seem to be collecting them from everywhere, and they're rescue dogs, and you post about them a lot. And if you want to talk about your dogs, that would be cool.
Yeah, my dog now is actually like he's making some noise in the back. But yeah, I have I did have 3 dogs, and one dog, unfortunately, the first dog I had passed away. Like
I'm sorry.
I guess like around 3 months ago now, but you know, lived a really nice life, and made me also love dogs too. Like when my friends see me with dogs, they always find it so strange, because when I grew up, when I was growing up, in like parks and stuff, I would like not run away from dogs, but I'd be very hesitant. But I think I've kind of said this before, maybe even on the last podcast here, but during my like poker career, at the start of my poker career, there was a lot of people like not bashing me, but like kind of just, they were like higher than me in the food chain kind of thing. And they were kind of giving me shit. Like, you know, I was always very present because I was just spending a lot of time trying to get better. And a lot of people kind of cemented themselves at high stakes, but were like not saying some stuff, but they were just like maybe treating me with a bit of arrogance themselves or whatever, you know? But you know, when I got maybe some success through luck or through whatever else, they were then coming to me kind of thing and like trying to be pally or something like that. And I've always kept myself like, when I'm in Vegas or whenever I'm in EPT, whatever it is, I'm with the same people now that I was with, you know, like 10 years ago, 8 years ago. Like I like to stay with the same people rather than just being with people who are there with you for kind of success or whatever. And with poker, I think when you have good success, you get a lot of people writing to you, you know, like I had like a year where I didn't cash an EP. I think I bricked like 20 EPTs or whatever. And like I didn't have like loads of reporters like messaging me for interviews or this or that or the other. And then I had this free tournaments which Ben spoke about in Vegas, and afterwards everyone was writing to me like, oh, like you must be so good at live poker kind of thing. And I'm like, no, not at all. Like live, I just ran well literally for a week, and I was the same player I was a year ago. But my dog still tracked me the same when I went back after the first EPT, after the 10th EPT, after the 20 EPT, after the Vegas tournaments, you know? So I think dogs have kind of, they just have this, they're kind of constant, you know, they don't make you like go up and down in your emotions with them. And especially because I like to be at home in my office working, they kind of help me just stay on this kind of even keel. After I finish a Sunday session, if I lose 60K, I still go and walk my dog. And it's kind of a good way to kind of, it's almost like not a therapist, but it's a way of like, it's a way of therapy, I would say, you know, to kind of, to make sure that you don't just stay in bed for 4 days, you know, or that you don't go partying around the world for 6 months or whatever it may be. They kind of keep you kind of, sometimes it may be seen as like, that they hold you back sometimes, that, you know, you can't travel here, or you can't travel there, or you have to go to a hotel which allows dogs, whatever it may be. But to me, it keeps you more kind of on the ground, I think. That's the way that I see it.
Yeah, having a little bit of responsibility can really put in perspective what's important. And also like what you were describing, that unconditional love that you get from them, where you are just your dog's hero every day of the year, no matter what else is going wrong in your life. And I think that it can definitely really, especially when you need it most, it makes such a huge difference to have that kind of love in your life. It's just a different level. They're just better than humans. I'll say it. We're all thinking they're just way better than people.
Do you know that you're still Crouton's hero? Like, so Pads and Sam Grafton, a couple other players, rented an Airbnb in my neighborhood last summer, and we discovered this somewhere midsummer. I'm like, oh shit, cool, I'll like come by. So I bring Crouton over, and he was super excited. Like, he just knows right away. He's like, this guy fucking loves dogs. So he just like goes up to you and was like crazy about you and Sam. He has not let that go. Like, for the first month or two after you guys left, he pulled me to your driveway and was like, yo, come on, we're going to see our friends. I was like, all right. And I had to like tell him like they don't live here anymore, and he'd sniff around. Maybe every 10th walk still, he's just like, hey, should we go check out Pads? Like, what's he still doing? So I think that is so cute, like that they can fall in love with people that quickly, and he's such a good read that you guys were dog people.
For sure. I actually say it to the guys I staked, like in the past. I honestly said to them, like, one of the best things you can do is get a dog. And if they're like, yeah, but I don't have many breaks, or this, that, or the other, like, it works out one way or the other. You know, you have a girlfriend, you have a friend, you have whoever comes around to help for whatever. Like, I really believe that having dogs for a poker player is a really, really good thing, even from a selfish point of view, that they help you get out the day after you've had that big downswing, you know, after you've bricked every Sunday for whatever, and you just don't want to do anything. They're just going to make you get out of bed and feed them, you know, and you're going to have that responsibility, like Ben said.
But I think it really does depend a bit on the dog, right? Like, you need to have the right personality. Like, my first dog, I would be grinding and he would just flop next to me and he would just chill there. And I could grind all day. And then, like, as soon as I was done and I get up, he's like up, he's excited, he's loving, he's ready to go for his walk and stuff. Whereas my current dog is a complete fucking gremlin, and he cannot be stopped. He cannot be left alone. And it would, like, if I tried to, never mind like the 20 table grind we used to do back in the day, if I tried to like 4 table now, he would just be on my lap, in my face, sticking his tongue all the way up my nose while I'm trying to focus, and there's no way to get rid of him. So I think you do have to make sure that your dog has the right personality for your lifestyle and meshes with you well. You can't just go down to the pound and grab any mud and then expect them to just calm themselves down when you need to focus on something else. Like, you really need to find a dog that suits you.
Can I put you on the spot to show your tattoo, Ben?
Are we doing, is this topless podcast?
Topless podcast.
I have a tattoo of my first dog that I wanted to keep him close to my heart, so he lives with me now.
What a beautiful dog. Kaz is awesome.
It is beautiful, and it actually looks pretty good, I think.
It was really good. Yeah, there's a tattoo parlor just down the street from where I live, and I was walking by kind of every day, and I saw he did these really detailed human portraits, and yeah, after my dog passed away, he got really sick and he was really struggling for a couple of years there. And so after he passed away, I wanted to keep the memory of him uh, young and joyous and healthy, and kind of
Oh, that's
that
nice.
looking up at me with that love in his eyes, and with that
Mhm.
as opposed to that's how I wanted to remember him. I didn't want to remember him suffering and struggling like he was in his last days. So
That's
I
true.
kept a reminder on me now.
I've just been thinking if I imagine that by the time I cease to exist, that probably I'm going to have dozens of dogs, you know. So if I follow the same path, my whole chest is going to be full of
Yeah,
all my.
I did not really
But
plan
why
ahead.
why not? You know, why not? Why not?
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
think
it
it's a bad
is.
thing.
No, it's but the next one, if there's a next one, it's gonna have to be smaller. It's gonna be like when I sign my name, the first letter starts out really big, and then I get to the end of the page, I'm like trying to cram it in the little signature box. That's how it's gonna be with
Yeah,
the dog tattoos.
I think
yeah.
of patchwork of all dogs as like if your whole body was just like your naked body's literally like a quilt of dogs. That is the coolest thing.
I'm sure.
You would
It
get
must exist.
you listen. Jamie would give it up for that guy, whoever he is, with the dog tattoos. You got at
Yeah,
least one,
Anyway,
it's.
boys.
I'm sure it exists for sure. Like if you have one, someone's gonna have two, right? And if someone has two, someone's gonna have three. So
true.
yeah, I'll do some research.
Anyway, I love this. We could just have a pod about dogs. This would be the perfect thing. But you know, since Phil Galfond, it's Run It Once, and they probably want to hear about your course. Do you want to intro your course now and give the people a little bit of a clue about what you're going to be teaching?
Yeah, so basically from like almost that picture, which I was talking about on Twitter, from when I was 20 till now, where I'm 32, which is pretty scary. Or even younger, probably from 18. I probably spent like an average of maybe like 5, 6 hours a day on poker. Maybe took like 8 days off of poker in that like 13 years. Just like I really do enjoy like being around poker, and having a stable was really good in the fact that there was hundreds of people there who all wanted to speak about poker, especially because I was running the stable. It's a lot easier to if I message, hey, anyone wants to do some study or anyone wants to like go over a hand review or whatever, there would always be, you know, 5, 6 people to kind of be doing that straight away. So when I left BitBeat like kind of last summer, I just continued doing it just by myself, just over and over again. And I was used to making content. Like if I found out something cool, like let's say I found out this kind of like hotspot or whatever, like I would just make a video out of it and like make like some content out of it and then send it to the BitBee guys like on our like website, whatever. But then when BitBee, when I left BitBee, basically, I was even more encouraged to play poker and study poker because of lockdown. There wasn't really much going on, you know, like to do. So I was like, okay, now I'm going to play poker kind of thing a lot. I'm going to study poker a lot. But then I had all these new things I was coming up with, and then no one to kind of like not to share them with because I can always share it with friends or whatever, but nothing to like produce content along those lines. So I started to make, I made a YouTube channel, I guess, in like October, November-ish time. And I wasn't sure necessarily what I wanted to do. I always wanted to make like some kind of content, maybe some podcasts, maybe some like live play. I used to be on Twitch like a long time ago before Twitch banned poker. So I was always kind of interested in doing content. I've always enjoyed doing content, whatever it may be. And it then just kind of made sense to do a course. I think a different site asked me to do a course for them, and I was planning on doing it. And then there was just a few conflicts of interest a little bit where it didn't really make so much sense to do it there, unfortunately. And then a few other people reached out to me, like Phil and a few of the other sites, and it made sense to have Run It Once just because I've been a member of Run It Once, and I was checking my emails. I think it was 2011 or 2012. Like I signed up for the Run It Once the first time. I have like my email, and since then I've paid every month for like 8 or 9 years. So it's like a very genuine relationship where like I do like being there, and I like the website. I like how it all is. When Run It Once, actually probably don't know this, but when Run It Once came into being a website, into being a training website, I worked for pokerstrategy.com. I think I was speaking to Ben around that time, and I was like the head of the English side of pokerstrategy.com. We had like 9 million members. So we were like 9 million is like really a lot of people, right? So Dan Quinn, I think it was at the time, he is part of Run It Once still now. he kind of reached out to me, I think, because we were thinking about working with Source, Ben Solsky, and Run It Once were like launching kind of thing with Source a little bit too around that kind of time. And we had like a phone call, and I think we went through some stuff about like, because they knew they had a good idea about doing a training side, but they didn't know like necessarily all the finer details, I think. So I think we spoke for like 2 or 3 hours, and I just kind of maybe like give like a free like semi consultation just for like just to help out, because I looked up to Phil so much, like I've always kind of said. So it's always been very genuine. So then when Dan reached back out to me like 2 months ago, whatever it was like, wow, we spoke like 10 years ago kind of thing, of when we were both working with a training site. Now we're coming together to do the same one. It just kind of made sense, I think. Yeah, so I love content. Like I said, I watched every hand of the Doug challenge, right? So like I love to consume poker content, whether it be Twitch, whether it be YouTube, whether it be courses. Like I've seen a lot of courses, like probably all the courses out there. But I've always struggled to stay fully engaged with them, rather than when I watch the YouTube with you and Mike and Nick or whoever else, maybe Gazi B, whoever it is. With those kind of guys, I feel it very easy to kind of watch it all and not be bored. Like I watched 7 hours yesterday, it kind of flew by.
Yeah.
But if I watch like an hour's training video, and I think a lot of people have the same kind of thing, that it's quite hard to watch an hour's training video. Like it's hard to just sit there and watch for an hour of a guy talking and to want to do it. And then when you have a course of like 100 of those videos, usually by the time you get through like 10% of the course or 15% of the course, usually people just give up, is what I've kind of seen in the past, from my own experience and also from friends. You start with the really good intentions. Oh yeah, let's do this. Let's get really good. Then you just like, I can't do this kind of thing. I'm going to go back to YouTube, whatever. So I had some different ideas of how I would like to do it, coming from Bidby Steak. And obviously like we had so much coach. I think it was maybe 7 years or so of like coaching every single day, we used to have like a feedback system of people telling us how they enjoyed sessions. And if they didn't enjoy the sessions, they would tell us very brutally, because they were giving us 50% of their EV and they were like really good players. So if they didn't like the way something was coached, they would say, look, you can't do it this way. I learned better in X, Y, or Z way. So I had like pretty good like market research feedback just from having that kind of stable, I think. So yeah, that's kind of the long story around it. And then the last 2 months I've just been making the course every day for like 9-10 hours, and we're almost finished now. I think we have like 2 days left to finish the rest off. So yeah.
Nice. I think a lot of I had struggled with it as well. Like I'll sit down to watch a course and I feel myself having to rewind and watch it again, because I'm like, okay, I didn't really internalize any of that unless I'm taking notes or whatever. Sometimes I literally have to stand and watch a course because we're so used to tuning that out. If you've gone to school your whole life, it's really hard not to tune that out. Like you have classes where you just glaze over and you're like, okay, just waiting for it to be done. But most of the people are spending a lot of money on these courses. Like they really want to learn them. What makes yours different from that type of learning?
Well, first of all, I think there's a lot of milking. Like I think, there'll be a site, they may do a course on MTTs, but then they'll do another course on ICM, then another course on like live videos, then another course on PSKOs. And by the time you've bought all the courses, you've spent like $1,000 times 6 or times 7 or even more sometimes, So first of all, I think a lot of people are being priced out by having like 20 videos, 20 videos, 20 videos, 20 videos. And, recreational players probably don't want to buy 5-6 courses and pay $6,000, So the first thing I always said, and Run It Once probably don't enjoy that I say it this way, but I really always wanted it to be very, very well priced and fair priced, where I think I'm going to have like around about 150 videos and it's going to be around about $700. So it's going to be around about $5 per video. Whereas, lots of the time you'll have like maybe 30 videos and it'll be like 1,500 or whatever. So first of all, it'll be like, it was important to me to do, I don't want to do like Pads Volume 2, Pads Volume 3, Pads Volume 4. Because I know that, I know it's probably the best way to do it from a money point of view, but that was the first thing which I really didn't want to do. Second of all, I completely agree with you about like the school learning. I hate reading presentations. I hate reading, someone going through a classroom environment. The way that I do it is I like to get straight into it and basically set a scene up. So basically we might study, for example, the video might be playing under the gun versus button, like 40 big blind steep or something. So the way that I would do it is, instead of like having a presentation of slide 1, slide 2, like of 10 slides, the way I'll do it is I will make a notepad. And in a basic notepad, like someone would do on their own PC, I write like 6 things which I want to find out the answer to, let's say. So let's say we're studying medium board textures, like what kind of hands are we, what sizing do we use? And I will write my like guess of what the right thing to do is. Maybe I'll say, which hands are we trying to make indifferent with this? If we do bet big on the flop, what's our turn sizing on flush draw turns, or blah, blah, blah. There'll be like 10 questions, which will always stay up on the screen kind of thing. And then it's like a game, or it's like a case study together. So I get the tools open and study them as if it was at the very start of the quiz or of the game. So I will pull up the game tree and we'll start like studying it and try to answer the questions as it goes down. So the viewer also can kind of guess his answers to the questions as well. So they know that, okay, if I write down my answers to these 8 questions, what I think right now about this spot, then when Pads goes through it, how many of these questions am I going to get right? If Pads thinks something and I think something else, then that's really good, because they're going to stay till the end to see if they were right or if I was right. Do you know what I mean? Maybe we're both right in some degree. So they're kind of invested in the video from the start to watch all of the video, which I think is important. And also they're invested in terms of they're interested, they're infused, that they want to see how it works. So I don't like presentations. I don't like anything like that. I prefer treating everything as a game, as a quiz, where we're trying to work out this game or this quiz or this puzzle together, because everything in poker is just a puzzle. Like if it's Doug's free betting range, if it's Doug's C betting range, if it's Doug playing rivers on a paired board, like which blockers he wants to use, whatever it may be, everything's just a puzzle, and we're trying to work out that puzzle together. So instead of me just preaching to you about what the answer is, I think it's better to work the puzzle out together, or at least I try to work out the puzzle. And if you think the answer is different to the puzzle, then you say it. Do you know what I mean? It's a little bit like, I mean, obviously you play Werewolf too, right? You like Werewolf Mafia kind of stuff. It's like,
yeah,
like one of the best things about Mafia, which I like, is like, I'm saying this guy is the bad guy, and my friend, like say Sam Boosden, like European, he's like, no, that guy's the bad guy, and we're going after each other all game kind of thing. And then and then you almost have like an ego that, oh no, my way is right, oh no, his way is right. And if you get kicked out the game, what you end up doing is you stay around watching the game because you really want to know, was I right or was I wrong? So that's kind of the way that
chat. We'll have ghost chat where we have the people who are dead and they're still back and forth at each other's throats being like, no, Pads is bad because of this. And you see people who are like cemented in what they think, and you see people who are like more fluid and they're like, no, okay, well, he said this one thing that doesn't make sense. And ghost chat is sometimes like more invested in the game than the people who are still alive.
100%. Like if I got knocked out of a poker game, like imagine you play Venetian tomorrow and you get knocked out by some cowboy, you're not going to just hang around to see who wins, right?
Right.
Like, you don't care. But, imagine you had like a bet on like the cowboy lasts longer versus someone else. You're going to check on what's going on. You're going to be more interested. Yeah. So what I try to do in all of these situations is just make people as interested as possible to want to watch the content, to make it as enjoyable, and also not to preach. Like I think preaching, the thing is in poker, there's no, if I have a strategy and you have a strategy, like it's very hard for one strategy to be way better than another strategy. Do you know what I mean? So preaching that, oh, my way is the only way to do it, like you have to do this, like I think that's very bad. What I try to just teach is mechanics. So like we want to bet big when, or we want to target X with a small sizing, or we always want to do X because of Y. And I always like to kind of pull those mechanics together. I don't want to just say that X is a static number. So let's say X is like 30%. Like it doesn't matter if you bet 25, 20, 30, 35. The idea is just we're using a small sizing. So in almost all the videos, I'll never say this is a spot we bet 30%, or this is a spot we bet 25%, or have a table of charts where bet 25% on ace-high boards, bet 30% on king-high boards. Like to me, that doesn't matter because you're going to make no difference of money between the two strategies. It's all about just understanding the mechanic of why X wants to do Y kind of thing. So yeah, basically no preaching. But that's just the way that I am, like I say so much that there's so many different courses out there and all done by so many different kind of people. Like a Ben CB is so different to like a Nick Petrangelo. Do you know what I mean? Like they're completely different kind of ways of speaking. Like one guy is German and like very, like animated, and Nicky P's more like chill, like you're going to connect with different kinds of people. Some people need the Ben CB, some people need the Nick Petrangelo kind of thing. Some people like the Phil Galfond, they really like, soothe and chill. Like he's very popular for this, but there's also coaches who have been really popular, who have been super animated and really like hyper and, yeah, you know, like someone like Lex, right? Like he's really popular. He gets like, he swears a lot and he's kind of off the cuff and he's really popular for that. Then you have Phil Galpon, who's really popular just because he's a different way. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying you can't like two different kinds of people, but I think that everyone has a different kind of person who they can mostly connect with, which is kind of why I made the YouTube channel, because I've bought courses before, not MTT courses, but I've bought like other courses before from coaches, like cash game coaches who I just haven't known about. And I haven't seen them ever speak about poker. So I bought their course out of mystique because I'm like, this guy's won lots of money. I want to know how he thinks, kind of thing. Then I've watched 2 videos and known I just can never watch another video. So what I really wanted to do was kind of make about 10 to 15 YouTube videos where I don't kind of say, oh, well, join the course to see like the whole thing kind of thing. I just basically give my entire thought process, how I think about the game, how I think about spots, playing live, final tables, whatever it may be. And then people watch it. And if they like what they see, then they can buy the course, and they're not going to buy it out of mystique. I never wanted anyone to buy the course out of mystique. I want people to like buy it because they've watched me somewhere and they agree with how I approach certain spots, or they like how I think about certain spots. And if they don't, I don't want them to waste their money and buy it. You know, like that would make me feel terrible. I'm sure you guys would be the same. That imagine you have a product and someone buys it and they hate it and they tell all their friends, oh my God, it's so bad. Like she's so annoying, this, but you'd hate that, right? But if you brought some that, people...
I think everyone should watch the Rake podcast as much as possible. You should leave it running on your computer on a loop 24 hours a day, because we get a bonus for a certain number of views. So just everybody watch it, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, for sure. You could do that, for sure.
We interrupt this podcast with an important message from our sponsors at Run It Once.
How well did the last poker site you signed up for treat you? Whether you just play for fun, or working hard towards becoming a big winner, or are already playing professionally, we want to help you get the most out of your play at Run It Once. From now until the end of February, each new player at Run It Once Poker gets the following: your pick between our From the Ground Up No Limit Cash course, PLO course, or brand new Sit and Go course, 4 weeks of double cash bonuses from our already generous Legends Rewards program, followed by another 4 weeks of 1.5 times your Legends rake back, up to 3 months of Run It Once Training's Essential membership, and up to €100 in free Sit and Go tickets. This is, of course, on top of our 100% welcome bonus. I've been playing online poker for 17 years, and I've never been offered anywhere close to this much to sign up for a poker site. Want to take advantage? Head to runitonce.eu, click download, make your first deposit by the end of February, and you're in. It's really that simple.
And now, back to the pod.
I want to talk about this passion for teaching, because in addition to the course that you have coming out, you've been doing hand histories on Instagram Live every day. You've been doing the YouTube channel. What is it that makes you want to kind of open up and share with people? What is it about that process that kind of adds to your life or brings you joy? Because a lot of in poker, there's this, you're giving up something of your edge kind of when you open up the playbook to people and let people know how you think. So what is it that you get back? What motivates you to do that?
Well, firstly, it comes from habit. So my daily routine with BitB was every night after I finished playing, I would write a blog. We had like blogs in BitB, and in the blog, I would post like 5 hands which I played, explain why I played them, and this motivated me to do it, to study, because I would have the hands up, I'd have to find the solutions, etc. So every night I would always study at least 2 or 3 hours, because I would have these hands I'd be posting in the BitB kind of blog or in whatever blog which was private. So then when I left BitB and stopped blogging, it was just kind of natural progression of like posting it to like the next community who I'm kind of working with. And also, like I just said to Jamie there, I want people to know how I approach spots, and to post, like every day for like 2 or 3 months about all different kinds of spots, whether it be single raise pots, heads up pots, PSKOs, ICM, whatever it may be. I'm basically giving like 1%, 2% away of the entire course, basically showing exactly how I think and how I'm going to approach spots. And if someone watches every day and like, this guy has no clue what he's talking about, then they're not going to buy something out of mystique just because they think that I may be good at poker, which is one of the most important things. I'm kind of cementing in people's minds who like what I say to buy the course, which is good. And also like cementing into people's minds who think that I have a very flawed approach to poker to not buy the course, which is also really important for me from that regard too. So yeah, kind of about that. In terms of like giving back, and in terms of giving away too much, like I said, one of the reasons why I was so motivated to play poker was because of like, Phil Galfond, Tom Dwan. I loved the idea that these guys were getting better at poker, and they would share some stuff here and share some stuff there. And I would love that, like I wore Poker Static hoodie, I was buzzing to get that because I love to listen to people. So like I was a recreational and I got lucky to be a professional, right? Like, let's say I tried to be a professional, at least 50% of the time, I wouldn't have made it as a professional. I would have just bricked my first 100 tournaments, whatever it may be, and just given up. So just because I became a professional, probably 99 other people didn't make it as a professional, or they tried to play. It brought basically a lot of amateurs into the game that way as well, which I think is good. I think you wrote yesterday about Doug, kind of, it could put off a lot of people hearing about, like the battle room where they're learning all the studying process. But for me, for a certain demographic, I think that can turn them on to the game more than turning off to the game as well. Like I saw, I think, not shouting out here or anything, not no aggro, but I saw Henry Kilban, the GTO commentator guy,
Yes.
who's a really good commentator. And he was saying something about Mike Sexton, about how a lot of the younger guys now on Twitch or wherever it may be, they are like, I think he called them like young wizards or whatever. He's like, they're speaking about poker in a way where the casual viewer would never, like the people how Mike Sexton used to speak, this would like relate to them a lot more. But the thing is, like, Mike Sexton used to speak to like people who were watching on TV, who just poker was on after like they watched a soap opera. The people who come across Twitch, or the people who come across like poker on YouTube, these are usually people who are quite, one, like they like poker already. They're kind of interested in the strategy about poker. They're searching about poker, but also they often come from other strategical games. Like they may come from, I don't play any of these other games, but may come from like World of Warcraft or like some card game or whatever it may be. And like when I watch chess and I see somebody like doing a Brazilian, Sicilian, Rocky Balboa Open, I have no idea what the opens are called. But if I see someone
I like
a
Brazilian Sicilian. We should make that a thing. We're gonna figure this out somehow. And then we're gonna make that opening, and we're gonna shout "Vamo" whenever we play it.
Yeah, I mean the Brazilian Sicilian. Like if I heard that these people had these like little moves in chess, and I don't play chess so much, but if I was on like a Twitch channel of chess because Negreanu was on this channel, for example, because people were talking about things I didn't understand, wouldn't necessarily put me off. It may make me even more interested. If I see that there's these 4 guys in Canada who are living in a chess house together and they're like studying and they have these programs and stuff, I wouldn't be like, oh wow, I'm never going to be able to beat these guys. I'm going to be, oh wow, there's like a really, if you want to get better, you can get better kind of thing, So I think there's a lot, I know there's a lot of people, I get a lot of messages every day from people just replying to I always leave a question where people can say what they would do, and, thousands of people write every day what they would do in these spots. And, these people from Seeing the Answers are like ultimate beginners, who don't know anything to, some of the best players in the world. And I think one of the best things about poker is you can improve every day. That no one is, like Doug said he was to Jamie yesterday. I think he said Doug was seen as the best heads-up player in the world, right? And he said to Jamie, I think, that 6 months ago he was dreadful, right? He basically said that he was
basically, he had to start from the ground up, right?
Yeah.
He said he had to basically learn how to play poker again.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But if you ask somebody 4 years ago how complete Doug Polk is as a heads-up player, they would probably say, 90%, 95% or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And no matter who you are, the game is always evolving. You can always improve. So yeah, I think trying to appeal to the people who want to get better and appeal to the people who see poker as a strategy game rather than as gambling, because I think also, like, morally, ethically, is it fair to kind of like try to reel people into the game who are addicted by the gambling, or is it maybe good to try to appeal to people who can be more sustainable, to people who will last longer? Because if you appeal to the person off the TV advert, often they deposit $50, they last around 2 or 3 minutes. The site doesn't get much of the money anyway. The site gets like a small amount of rake. They have to pay a bunch of fees to the card providers, to whoever else, and then the regulars make all the money from them anyway. Whereas if you get somebody from like World of Warcraft or whatever, probably their $100 deposit is going to be grinded out a bit better. They're going to maybe have slightly better bankroll management. They're probably going to try to improve if their first $20 doesn't go so great. So I think even from an poker ecosystem point of view, trying to appeal to people who aren't necessarily like addicted, appealed by the gambling part and appealed more from the strategy part, I think is how the industry should probably go too. That's how
I agree with you completely. I think my thoughts on that we kicked this off, for those of you who don't know, Doug was talking about his applications of updating his strategy during the match. And he said he had basically a war room of people processing the data of Daniel's bet sizings, what they were doing. He had some of the best heads-up players in the world, or players that he considers the best heads-up players in the world, prepare him before the match. During the match, they were updating. Okay, Daniel's using the sizing. They were putting it through a solver, and he was getting new kind of solutions, I guess, daily. Probably not while he was playing directly, but daily during the match, he was getting new solutions of how to combat these sizings. And I don't think I agree with you about appealing to people who, view poker as a strategy game, and kind of, rather than want to test their luck, they want to test their sort of mettle against, they want to see how good they can be. I thought more the issue was the almost the team dynamic and the infrastructure, where if someone was, getting into the game and they heard, okay, he had, I think, his own programmers, he had his own data crunchers, he had his own heads up specialists, all this teamwork to prepare them. If you're one person and you're getting into poker and you don't have any poker friends, you don't have kind of this infrastructure, this systemic support, I think it could be very intimidating to get new people to say, that's what I'm up against. I'm not really testing, my mettle. I'm not seeing, one-on-one, like maybe if you picked up a new game that two people had never played before, and you with a friend, and you grabbed, there was a story many years ago, I think, about Tom and Phil, where they made a bunch of side bets, but they invented new card games on the spot, and to see who would win. And that sort of thing, where you're just testing your capacity to adapt, your capacity to improvise, your capacity to learn, versus saying you need all of these tools, all of these infrastructure to get to the best. I think that could be very intimidating to new players who don't have the technical knowledge or the support that someone like Doug has.
But I know obviously if we make up a new game tomorrow, then you're not going to have this, but almost any game in the world which is played competitively and you have professionals is going to be like this. Whether it be, if you have tennis or one-on-one tennis, you have people analyzing your opponent's serve, or, bringing your nutrition to the absolute, infinite detail. Or if you have chess, you have, like, I watched Alpha, is it called
Alpha Zero?
Is it Alpha Zero?
Yes.
Is it? When I think with Magnus, right? Is this the one? Oh, there's a documentary on Magnus where he's playing, and he plays against his opponent, and in like some world championship, and his opponent basically goes to his room afterwards, and they analyze everything with these computers, a little bit like PSR, I guess, with all the outputs kind of thing. And like that happens in chess, right? Like if you have, there's also AlphaGo. Do you know AlphaGo as well? It's this like game in.
Yes, Go is a different game. I think it's a Chinese game. But anyway, one of us is going to look like a dunce, and that's fine. Keep going. Yeah,
this game, also they have there's a guy who's a world champion, and they play against the computer, right? And even in Go, he went away with his team, and they're all working and trying to find leaks in the other thing. I think almost any sport, any game, anything which is competitive, at the most elite level, this happens. But when I see a tennis game in the park, I know that they're not like analyzing each other with video stuff. Or if I see a chess game in between some friends or whatever, I know they're not doing the same thing. Or if I watch a Go game in China, Japan, wherever the game is, I know that, when they're playing in the schools, they're not like analyzing each other to this detail either. But they are trying to improve, just like you try to improve in chess, just like you try to improve in anything. I don't know if there's any game where at Doug and Daniel's level, the detail is not at least this high. I would actually say probably the detail is lower in what Doug was doing than in anything else which is competitive at the similar level, I would say.
I think too. Oh, go ahead.
I think that's fair. I just, having come up at a time when we did, because we came up, I think I was probably, I started playing a couple years earlier than you, but we came up around the same time and along the same path. I think one of the great things about poker, and one of the things that kept people into poker, is you have the chance to compete with the best in the world. in a way that you don't in other games. The two friends playing tennis in the park, neither of them are preparing themselves or dreaming one day of taking on Rafael Nadal. Neither of them could in a realistic scenario say, I'm going to pay $10,000 and enter this tennis tournament, and I'm going to sit next to Rafael Nadal, and I'm going to see how good I am against him. And I think that's one of the aspirational drives that's kind of really interesting and unique to poker. And I don't want to see that dream of kind of jumping in and trying to compete with the best. I don't want to see that snuffed out by it becoming such a these architectural structural changes to the game or impediments. One of the things I love most coming up through poker was anybody could jump in and anybody could do it. There really were no barriers to entry. And I think the more complex it becomes, and the more it becomes, a team game and a game that requires intense preparation and familiarity with these tools and your own programmer, I think the harder it becomes to get new people into it.
I agree, but then I would say if we compared when we first started playing, it was very hard. There wasn't much accessibility to get good at the game because the people who were vocal about the game, like let's say Negreanu and Helmy, for these kind of guys, like they will say themselves, like they were very bad, right? They couldn't really help you improve. So like if I was a 20-year-old who wanted to get good at poker, wanted to improve at poker, it was very hard for me to also have the aspirations of getting better, because how do I get better? There was no solvers. There wasn't really many training sites. The pros who were famous were not very vocal, and they weren't really incentivized to be vocal. They weren't getting like contracts based on how vocal they were about sharing strategy. Whereas now in 2021, the biggest sponsored players in the world are people like Lex Veldhuis, who is a high stakes, high level professional, but speaks about what he's doing and why he's doing every single decision he makes every time he plays poker. You see people like Negreanu now being able, because of these tools and because of these solvers and because of the people who he works with, be able to explain poker on a level where people can start to improve, right? Like Negreanu now, like he does WSOP video logs, right? Like he does a video log and I think 200,000 people watch each one of them, and he points out key things and says why he's doing it. And he's now on a pretty good level where he says really good things where you can get like aha moments. And I could use, if I was an amateur coming up, I could use these aha moments to get better a lot quicker. But I remember being 18, 19, 20, 21, very, very tough to improve, like very tough to improve. Also, now you have stuff like Discord groups, you have stuff like Facebook groups, you have stuff like, I guess, Reddit groups, wherever it may be. I feel like now there's so much opportunity to learn, so much opportunity to get better. If you are an aspirational player and you do want to get good at the game, it's so much easier now, I would say. And one of the negatives might be it may put some people off. At the very, very elite, there's programmers and stuff going on. But I think overall, the whole twist in direction for the industry going in the direction of strategy being very available, encouraged by all the operators for their pros to be like Ike Haxton. He did like the WPT Montreal commentary, right? Saying what he would do in every spot, like speaking very delicately about blockers and this, that, the other, like in a way where people could understand, of course. Jason Kuhn does the same, like loads of people do the same, like from all sides, I think. And now to playing like on live cash games or to playing live tournaments in say Triton or these kind of things, they've basically made you kind of open up a little bit, so like maybe you jump on the commentary afterwards. Whereas, Phil Ivey never jumped on the commentary. Like Phil Ivey never like twitched or did his stuff or said what he thought, Helmuth didn't really do anything like that. The people we looked up to, like even Tom Dwan, wasn't really like twitching or streaming or making strategy videos. He was very incentivized to keep it close to the chest because Full Tilt paid him for his face, not for his words, right? Like he wasn't like, Ike Paxton, Jason Kuhn, of course, they're representatives and ambassadors because they're great for the game, but they're also basically encouraged or contracted to also speak very in-depth about the game too, write blogs every month. Tom Dwan wasn't writing blogs and doing video logs and having a YouTube channel and all that kind of stuff, So yeah, I see it. I do see what you're saying, but I think the positives far outweigh the negatives in terms of having, that top end programmer just from everything just below being a lot more in depth, I think. But
And
I
not
could be
just
wrong.
that, but it's actually, I see it completely differently. I think if you keep that knowledge and information to yourself, you're not giving people the roadmap that you took to get to where you're at. So if you're playing 200, 400 no limit, and you did need to hire a programmer and you did spend some of the money that you made at the lower stakes to give yourself a team and give yourself like the chance to actually like crush this challenge, you're telling people the truth. I think that's something that changed a lot in poker, where people used to keep all the information to themselves. They would glamorize it and just be like, oh, I'm just lucky or whatever, and wouldn't really tell people how hard they worked, or how hard their team worked and whatever else. And I feel like it was like refreshing to have Doug give other people credit in my eyes. And I think other people are more willing to do that too now. Like Kuhn isn't going to say, oh, it's just magic. Like I got lucky, I'm just magic and whatever. He gave a list of like 30 things he considers every time he plays a hand of poker in an MTT. And it's not, yeah, I could see someone being intimidating, being like, whoa, I thought I knew how to play poker, but clearly I have no idea what's going on, when this person's thinking of 30 things and I'm thinking of 2 things. But it's also, these are people who are winning millions of dollars. There's a lot of room under that to be a poker player and to like break in. Maybe your goal is to win 50K. Maybe your goal is not to be a lawyer anymore or something like that. And I don't know, that success looks different to different people, but I kind of like the window into like what it takes to win that much money or be at that level. Because I would have no idea if Doug just said, yeah, I studied a little bit and it went well. Glad I ran good. I'd accept that, but it's like kind of cool to see what it actually took.
For sure, yeah, for sure. I agree.
All right. I might be in the minority here. Yeah, very possible.
They're for sure people who think the same as you, Ben. You're definitely not in the minority, I don't think.
One of us has to be in the minority. It's not bad to be in the minority. I just I feel like the things that you've spoken about are things that are unfamiliar to me, and maybe, you know, I mean, it's really tough to tell, because it might be the case that is mostly what motivates people these days, and you know, these tools like these Discord groups, these things that are available are part of what motivates people, but there's also a bias in the sample, because the people who are motivated by it are the ones that have stuck around, and the people who are demotivated by it are out of poker. So I think it's always going to be tough for us to tell, you know, how much certain approaches push people away. It's always going to be hard to count the people who aren't there. So we'll probably never know.
The fact though that like once in a while, I feel like people used to pretend they had 100% of themselves too. They would win something and they'd get interviewed by Kara Scott and they'd be like, man, I don't even know what I'll do with all these millions. And you're looking like, that guy didn't have 100%. Like, give me a break. But we glamorized poker too much and kind of sold an image that's not really true. And it would be nice if it was just a little more real. I do think a lot of people still stick around, even if it's not glamorized, even if you tell the truth about what it is, because it's still a really good job compared to a lot of crappy, boring jobs. So I don't know, maybe it's like not bringing in the most recreational players. I kind of don't want those people playing if they don't know what they're getting into anyway.
Yeah,
I also think a lot of people asked, like, if you look at Negreanu, I mean, I'm gonna just make sure I'm not speaking bollocks here, but I'm pretty sure Daniel's videos, which he did daily, which are not like that interesting, obviously they're okay, like on the challenge, like I'm pretty sure they were getting hundreds of thousands of views. Like there was a lot of interest from them. I'm just looking now. Yeah, Daniel Negreanu. Yeah, they were getting like a lot of views. You know, like the one from today basically was got like 50K views already, you know? So like, I know that yesterday's challenge videos, there's probably 150,000 people watched the free streams yesterday. So there's a lot of interest, even after, you know, like months of this going on. I think there is a lot of people who do kind of stick around for it. And we will lose people too. But I think there's a lot of like irrational fear too. Like, I think like HUDs are a good example. Like Party Poker got rid of HUDs and I was like, very adamant to Party, like, you don't need to get rid of HUDs, don't worry about them. But the main reason why Party got rid of HUDs was that the recreational players had fear of a HUD. Like they thought if I play against Bob, the builder, whatever, if I play against Pog and my HUD is going to give me some tactics to beat him, right? They don't really understand. Like to them, it's very scary. Like you said, they can be put off by things which they may not even realize shouldn't scare them, you know? So HUDs, for example, scare a lot of amateurs when we all know that if I play against Bob and he's playing very splashy, I'm going to just realize he's splashy and make a note that this guy showed down like a6 offsuit from under the gun where he should have folded, or he played, like some random handle in. It's very easy to quickly realize that hoods are more kind of used for kind of like Doug was speaking yesterday about how he has the upswing guys writing all the delay stats and the fold versus check bet. Like these are samples, these are spots and situations which you need samples of literally thousands and thousands of hands of. But I'm not going to play against an amateur in thousands and thousands of these spots. So it's not going to ever help me versus an amateur. Like if I'm playing against Rob Young, like I always tell him, I don't need a HUD to tell me that you don't fold versus C-bets. Do you know what I mean? But if I'm playing, I'm using a HUD to basically tell me when, Doug Polk is folding too much after I check the flop, check the turn, and then raise his river bet. I'm never going to get into those kind of situations against an amateur, like in enough time to give me a relative sample size. So Hardy got rid of the HUDs because amateurs essentially are scared of what these HUDs are. They don't understand. They don't realize. They're not educated enough about the HUDs as well, which is another important thing. Doug kind of bringing up this whole developers and whatever it is. I think it's better that Doug actually comes out and tells everyone and says it clearly, rather than it coming out in some secret interview. Oh wow, Doug had these guys in Germany who were like creating these mega master strategies, like I think often the industry tries to hide things which are not actually that fearful or shouldn't be fearful for people. And because we hide them, or because we aren't so open with them and transparent about the things, or even show, like, has a high stakes professional poker player ever made a video showing people what a HUD actually is and how much danger or fear it can actually make to an amateur? Because let's say Phil Ivey made a video, or Daniel Negreanu made a video showing what a HUD is, showing the powers of a HUD, showing how important it is in spots or how not important it is in spots. Probably people wouldn't even really talk about it anymore because they would realize that it doesn't really help you at all. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's good that Doug spoke out about it, because it's better to come out properly transparent kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. You're on the right. Honesty is the best policy. That is all it is, though. It's just like being a little transparent and showing what poker's like now. I don't think it hasn't scared us. So it hasn't scared me away. And I'm a mid-stakes reg. I like being aware of the tools people are using. So it's like there is a roadmap if I wanted to move up. And if not, I could, like there's money to be made at lower stakes. And there's a lot of people who enjoy poker for reasons not trying to crush 200, 400 heads up matches. And I think we should just remember that like recreational players just enjoy playing poker. Not all of them are trying to play at the highest levels.
This is why Twitch is so good in terms of ambassadors, right? Because the ambassadors you have for Twitch is, you have people like Matt Staples or Jamie Staples, or you have people like All in Pav or Spraggy or whoever it may be, who are not, your high stakes crushers who are like playing all these super high rolls and stuff. Like Full Tilt back in the day, if you're a Full Tilt Red Pro, you'd win a bracelet. You had to be a bracelet to be recognized. And if I was like a 20-year-old who, didn't have a bankroll, I can't really aspire too much to be, like an Eric Seidel or a Matt Matsar or Phil Ivey, whatever it may be. But if there's a guy who has maybe at 15,000 bankroll and he updates his bankroll every day and he streams it live, and he's the similar age to me and like into the similar kind of things, like these are kind of people you actually can be relatable to and you can actually be inspired by, right? Because I'm probably going to be way more inspired by Matt Staples than I would have been by Phil Ivey. Like if I was at a similar age to Matt Staples and didn't enjoy playing craps or whatever, that's just the way that I see it. And I think this is really good for the industry now that we have these kind of ambassadors who are playing kind of more the mid stakes or the lower stakes. I think a really good ambassador is Ali Shaban.
Yeah, Ali's cool.
He's really cool. He's really chill. He's got no ego. He's not trying to be anyone he isn't. And he's probably really similar to most people who watch Twitch, I think. Probably a little bit.
That's like the meanest thing you could possibly say about him.
Yeah, I mean, I watch him, so
I'm just teasing. I was just bonding with the Twitch trolls for the last 2 months during this challenge. So, look, I'm one of them.
I know, yeah, but yeah, those kind of people I think are great ambassadors for sure. Yeah, they make more people play poker than like a live guy kind of thing, in my opinion.
It's cool. It's sort of like what you were saying with the training sites, the different coaches, the different styles. It's like you kind of get to choose your own ambassador now. We're not just given the 5 old school pros and you have to pick who's your favorite. You can find a Twitch guy no one knows about. You could have 100 viewers and that could be the person you learn from because you relate to them. And same thing with the people who want to aspire to Doug's level. Maybe they want to hear all about this stuff and watch that challenge and try to be like him. But I agree with you 100%. There's like so many different ways to enter poker now and learn from someone. Whereas in the past there really wasn't, especially like I hate harping on this, but like especially for women, there's no female grind houses where like someone takes her under their wing and you like live in a house with 5 women who are crushing poker. That didn't happen. So like having these like online forums, like even Discord chats and stuff would be amazing for a new like a 21-year-old woman coming into poker. I hope that's happening.
I think in the UK there's a lady called Diver Byrne, I think is her name.
Yeah, she has a club, a ladies group.
I think she has, and she's really good at like getting all these people doing it, the ladies doing it together. I can't remember what it's called, but I'm sure if you are a lady in poker, you already know it. But like, yeah, it's great that these kind of
Flip. It's like Flip. I forget what the acronym is. Fantastic Ladies in Poker or something. It's just cute. It's like a nice, I don't know, like friendly group. There's a few now. There's a few Facebook groups and stuff where there's outreach happening. And
this wasn't really around too much, you know, like when I mean, you will know more than me, but there wasn't like many. There wasn't many groups anyway for men either, you know. Like,
well, Jamie, this is Grindettes erasure.
Katie brings it up all the time. I was like, Katie, all that was like we were like the Babysitters Club. We're like, she's like, we're gonna be the Grindettes. I'm like, okay, what are we gonna do? She's like, we're gonna just be friends with each other and play poker. I was like, okay. She's like the loveliest human, but that's what it was. But these groups now are like huge.
I read she's been doing really well recently too, right?
She just won a circuit, her second circuit ring. She's doing well. Yeah, she's taking poker way more seriously, and she has a kid, so her story just got cooler because she just like somehow has no time and is starting to just crush poker, which is
I'm sure there's a lot of women who have kids who don't have much time who, you know, can aspire to, like she's an ambassador for party poker, right? Just to make sure I didn't get that wrong. But yeah.
Borgata and party. She's like, yeah.
Yeah, but you know, like that, you know, people are more likely to aspire to be heard. And I don't mean this in any way against Jen Harmon, because Jen Harmon's a great player, great no negativity at all, but it's maybe less likely for a lady to be aspiring to go to Bellagio to play these super high stakes mixed games. Like it's not as realistic as it is to be a mother at home who's starting to learn poker and to pick up poker, whatever. Do you know what I mean? I just mean it's similar story way. It's more potentially inspirational for people. I'm not saying Jen Harmon's not inspirational to any degree. She's
like that. That's like one where you go, oh man, it would be really cool if like my story was like that, but it's like you might not be able to get there in your lifetime. She's been playing her whole entire life. But both Katie are like, wow, she was just grinding and she's starting to get really good and she's doing this. She's like learning, taking poker seriously with her hands full already. And I feel like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I hope more women get into it. Because I think that's one of the impediments to, well, it's one of the reasons why when we look at numbers that ladies like are only 4 or 5%. Part of it is that there is this feeling of, oh, I have to take care of a family or whatever. And it's like, this could be your hobby. And then all of a sudden you get really good at it and it could be your job. And now you don't have to work as much because poker is your job. It can happen. I think it's like hard to take that step for a lot of people, but I wish more would, because I just think, I don't know, more diversity in the game, the better. It's also a completely untapped market. Like when we think about a poker boom, like 50% of the population, we just need to get them interested in this.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. I think it's time we end this podcast. Padsy, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a real treat to have you. Really looking forward to the course dropping and to finally, after all these years, learn something about tournament poker.
Yeah, remind us the course title for everybody who wants to check it out.
So it's called Pads on Pads, and the PADS stands for Perfecting Analysis, Decisions, and Strategy. So it's like a play on words.
That's
Pads on Pads. That's great. That can be the title of your autobiography.
No.
Awesome. Thanks very much for doing this. We loved having you, and we look forward to the course coming out and hope to have you back on the podcast soon after your next big win.
Yeah, we'll do. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.
Bye.